Hey there, this is Tuesday, June 1st already. As I mentioned yesterday, now that we're going in, I got to move my chair a little closer. Now that we're going into June, it's interesting to think of the possibility of Trump coming back. And what does that mean if he has a 3.5-year term? I'm not going to speculate on that, but I'll tell you, I've got all kinds of alarm bells going off in my head. What about that 3.5 years and how many times that specific number, 3.5 years, is mentioned in scripture? Okay, first request for prayer. Manaus, Brazil is along the Amazon River, and there is great flooding along the rivers in Brazil right now. My ex-sister-in-law and her husband have been missionaries in Brazil for many, many years, and that's where they were stationed. They are a little, I don't know if they're upriver or exactly where they are. I know last time there was severe flooding, their house was a little higher than the river and came up to the water came up to their step. So I would appreciate that you would pray for Manaus, 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 Brazil, that God would protect the homes and protect the people, and especially protect this family's home, this missionary family. I'm going to write the city in the chat. Manaus, Brazil. I just heard this morning. Now, the family are the parents. The kids. Most of the kids are grown at this point. I don't know if they have anybody living with them anymore or not. I know their son got married there. I think one of their daughters got married there. I'm not sure where the youngest one or two kids are. I kind of lost track because I'm divorced from that side of the family. But they are, the couple, the missionary couple, are now in the States. He's getting treated for some heart issues in Milwaukee. Milwaukee has a really good heart hospital from what I understand. So they are back here on furlough, and I'd appreciate prayer for them. His name is Bob. But pray that their house would be spared from water damage. Excuse me. Don't know where that came from all of a sudden. As to, I got most of my news today is coming from various ones I follow on Telegram. It's interesting. I read yesterday that 93% of the ballots that they have inspected in this Fulton County inspection, 93% went to adjudication. I was absolutely horrified by that because, sorry, I'm reaching for a tissue. That cough did something. Remember, with adjudication, I saw a video, and I told you about that last week. If it goes to adjudication, the adjudicator, which is usually a supervisor, but I guess doesn't have to be, the adjudicator has the ability by computer to wipe out the ballot and recast it, to change anything on it. And so 93% went to adjudication. How honest was that supervisor? If they wanted Biden to win and didn't want Purdue, and who was the other one that they were, that Warlock replaced? Isn't it Warnock, sorry. They could redo the whole ballot through adjudication. So talk about a less than honest election. Oh my goodness. And I was shocked at hearing Boris Johnson's father from some years ago talking about how the population of the UK was too high and needed so sorry, needed to be brought down to 10 million. He realized that was depopulation. And he kind of giggled and said, but that's what we need. So it's no wonder Boris Johnson is saying that he wants the world completely, he says vaccinated. It's not a vaccination, but he wants the world completely to get the shot. They didn't name the supervisor in Fulton County, so I don't know. Oh, Kelly, that's pretty horrifying. Anyhow, Boris Johnson, quote, wants the whole world vaxxed by the end of 2022. So how many other countries are going to be promoting this? And we know that this is all about depopulation and euthanasia. It is something that the globalists want. It is something that the Pfizer former vice president is saying this is a killer. And look, Montagnier or some, I can't, Montagnier, I think his name was, said 100% will be dead within 2 years if you take it. That there's something going on if people are getting these, they're getting paralyzed, they're getting Lou Gehrig, not ALS, they're getting I had a friend that had it, but it's a type of paralysis, Bell's palsy, and worldwide 10,000 have died, and there have been, I think, I don't know, the number of vaccine injuries are now in the millions worldwide. We have 4,000 deaths here. And remember, I mentioned yesterday that I saw a map showing that Western Europe, not Scandinavia, but the mainland, and all of the United States was completely red. Every other country had dots of red, but our country and Italy, Spain, France, Germany, and a few other countries, Netherlands and so on, is completely red, showing that that's where it's really been a problem. So back to the election, OAN put out today that Pennsylvania legislators, a delegation of them, it wouldn't be the whole shebang of them, but there's a delegation of legislators from Pennsylvania that have gone to Arizona to investigate and observe the audit going on there, because I meant to put in the description box, and I think I forgot. Everybody, and it doesn't even have to be if you live in Pennsylvania. Certainly, if you live in Pennsylvania, you must do this. Even if you don't live in Pennsylvania, please go to auditthevotepA.com and please go there, and if there's a petition, sign the petition. Sidney Powell is the one that's promoting this. In Pennsylvania, there were 570,000 ballots that came in after the election ended, and over 99%, I think it was 99.4%, went to Biden. That is statistically impossible. There were, we heard last November, about ballots that came in and were returned by mail before the date that supposedly they were sent out. So, that's statistically impossible. Now, with the media ignoring the story of the Wuhan lab leak, there are people in media that are saying the reason they didn't promote that story was because it came out of the GOP. So they weren't going to support anything the GOP said. Now, Rand Paul and Mike Pompeo are warning. Man, I got something wheezing down here. I'm so sorry. I had a problem. I was swallowing something yesterday, and I knew some of it had gone down the wrong way, and it could be it's gone deep, and now finally is starting to try to come out. Good thing it needs to come out, but I'm sorry that you have to listen to me trying to cough it out. So Rand Paul and Mike Pompeo are warning about the gain of function research, and Rand Paul has proposed legislation to make it illegal to do gain of function research and to pay any money anywhere in the world where that is happening. Now, remember, Dr. Judy Mikovits used to work on gain of function research in the lab at Fort Detrick with Fauci. It's coming up, sorry. What gain of function does is it weaponizes whatever they're studying. So she noticed when she was working at Fort Detrick lab, which is a level 4 lab in the US, they were working on gain of function with HIV at the time. And it was distributed first in Africa, which is why you had AIDS became so prevalent there. This is my understanding. Now, I'm going to say I could be reporting this incorrectly. I may have my facts a little off. Please forgive me. We all, like Larry said, do your own research and find out if what I'm saying is true. Don't hold me to it, because this is how I am interpreting what I have learned. And it's just, I don't have a photographic memory. And so this is from what I am remembering from a year ago. But I was stunned by what she had to say and very saddened. And so certainly there's a part of this that has just stuck with me. UNICEF, is the child program with the UN. What they're coming out with is so horrifying and so destructive. They say that pornography should not be blocked from children, and that to block a child's access to pornography infringes on their human rights. And yet it is a known fact that pornography is going to damage them mentally. It is going to steal their innocence. It's going to distort their view of sexuality. It is going to condition them to normalize pedophilia. And children are so hurt by pedophilia. I heard a story today. Okay, I'm just not going to I'm not going to repeat it. It was something that was happening at the border, and it just, how do you hear these stories and not cry? And how do you hear things like this over and over and over again? You've got to toughen up your skin, and then you go, but I toughen up and then I feel so uncaring. So may God keep us sensitive enough to do something, which is why I'm here reporting. But we've got, there were 27 kids they found dead, probably abused to death is my guess. And the team of social workers and whoever else was with them were told to stand down, and they apparently refused. This is secondhand. I'm getting this story second or third hand. There's just horrific things going on. And I just saw a map of Florida with tunneling. It had some lines showing where tunneling is. And it said that there was a submarine entrance, and it looked like it was going even as far inland as Orlando. And so the reason there's so many American subs off the coast of Florida is to keep any submarine movement from happening in and out of that channel. There is a cloning lab. The map claimed that there was a cloning lab down there just south of Orlando. So, we need to be praying against the works of the devil in what is going on around Disney World, around Orlando, throughout Florida, and the things that are underground beneath military bases and so on. They are trying so hard to divide us, talking about critical race theory to promote hate and guilt, especially in the white males, but guilt in whites, hatred in other races, hatred for one another. This is not God's way. This is straight out of hell. Religious division, and now we've got those who have taken the shot and those they have not. Another reason to be separate. And yet there is power in unity. And that's why the dark side is so powerful, because they are so united in what they're doing. That's a biblical principle, that there is power in unity and strength in unity. So that's something that we need to be working very hard about. I discussed a little while ago with somebody some issues that we would normally take issue with, but she didn't have the right in the nature of the relationship and the nature of this contact. It was somebody she'd known from quite a while ago who is now living in sin. She addressed the fact that she was so grateful this person had reconnected with her, but she didn't go into addressing the sinful behavior because she didn't have the right to do that. But now she knows to pray against it. Now she knows to look for an opportunity if one presents itself to say, do you know what the Lord says? There is a rumor that Trump will be arrested, but every time I read that, they say, trust the plan. We have this under control. This is part of the agenda. They're trying to get him under the pretense that he cheated on his taxes, something they've been trying to get. They've gone after him for every which way answer. If he is legitimately a president right now and Biden's fake, then they cannot do this, because you cannot arrest and charge a sitting president. So we'll see how this goes through and what's going to happen. We know that no weapon formed against you will prosper. I think that's Isaiah 55 or 54:11. It's somewhere 54 or 55. I haven't looked at that verse in a year, so I'm kind of it's Isaiah 54 or 55. No weapon formed against you will prosper. And so we need to claim that. I posted 2 links in the description box below that have to do with the fact that they are trying to chip us and what the plan is. That was the House Bill 6666. And so the bill itself is linked below, and then a website that talks about the patent that I think it was the patent Bill Gates took out for 60606. Anyhow, both of those links are down below. I heard a really good question. If the whole system is rigged, we need to be motivated to action. And I really thought twice about possibly, and I forgot to put this link in the chat as well. We need to be thinking about what we can do. And I saw a really good video that was put up by, I think it was Sidney Powell put it up. And it's at rumble.com. I'm typing it in for you. Rumble.com /V as in Victor, H as in Howard, W A R as in Roger, L as in Larry, -motivation -for -patriots .html. So I'm posting that in the chat as well. Rumble, WHWARL, Motivation for Patriots, .html. So it's there now in the chat. It was a 2.5-minute video. It was an excellent video. I highly recommend you're wasting 2 minutes to watch it. We need to be doing something more. And I know I need to be doing something more that I'm doing. I am so... Oh, I dropped my glasses. Where'd they go? I'm stepping on them. Sorry, boy. Very unprofessional today. I'm sorry. I go so little anywhere that this is my biggest opportunity. I say things on Facebook as much and as often as I can, but I find that most of the people who see what I post are people of like mind, so it's really not making a huge difference, even though I post publicly, not friends only. But I'm looking for places where somebody gets some trolling and I can get in on the discussion. I'll say the discussion rather than the argument. For example, with my my state senator who's running for lieutenant governor, the state senator from Conway, running now on a statewide race for lieutenant governor. He posted today at a church, they had the American flag, the Arkansas flag, and the Appeal to Heaven flag. And boy, I'll tell you, there were some trolls in there taking issue with the Appeal to Heaven flag, talking about the separation of church and state. And I went to jump in on that discussion. And there were other people who'd beat me to it and had handled it with actually saying verbatim exactly what I had planned to say. So I left that one alone. But I look for opportunities like that because if I'm not out and about where I can talk to people. But remember 2 weeks ago, I told you how I had talked to somebody at the checkout. And my question to them as I left was, are you ready for eternity? And so, you know, like Larry said in his very last comment to us, we are at a point where the most important thing is to seek God's face. So turning now to scripture, we're going to be looking at a prayer of Habakkuk this week. The title of this lesson is Trusting God in Spite of Circumstances. So I'm going to the book is only 3 chapters long, so I'm going to read the whole book. We are actually going to be looking at the prayer in chapter 3. So I'm going to read a little bit of the preliminary so that tomorrow when we get into this lesson, we can go right into the actual questions. So she said Cho was alone at Christmas. She couldn't make the long trip home, and no one from her family could come to visit her. She had begun to make friends with the other students, but they'd all left to go home for the holidays, so she felt very lonely, and anger welled up in her heart. God had led her so clearly to study in a foreign country, and now he had abandoned her at Christmas time. Cho remembered all the people in the Bible who had poured out their feelings to God. She shut the curtains in her small apartment so no one would see her crying and let out her anger in a storm of tears. She shook her fist at God as the tears poured down her face. Now, there are so many places in the Psalms where David is doing that, very honestly expressing his anguish to God and anger. Why would you bring me here and leave me alone? Do you love me at all? Where are you? Have you ever asked that? Boy, I sure have. God answered her with a powerful sense of peace, security, and companionship that filled the rest of her Christmas break. Are there situations that make you feel angry? I mean, obviously, that's something that we all experience, I would imagine. Have you expressed your anger to God? You know, honesty with God isn't for God's sake, because God knows what you're thinking and feeling. But being honest to God about what you think, about what you feel, helps you recognize in yourself. You're verbalizing and solidifying in your own mind what you're feeling and how you think. When I'm expressing that honesty, I'm also looking for a solution. But because I'm being honest with the Lord, I'm expecting Him to help me find a solution. So it says, what kind of an answer did you hope for or did you expect? Did God answer you? In what ways did the process change your view of God? For me, and I hate that we can't discuss this together. I'm really sad about that. But I hope that you can learn from watching me process these questions with you. I learned very early in life, because my dad was a pastor, an eternal perspective. Dad talked a lot about heaven. And of course, we, being missionaries to a very poor community who had nothing and had very little hope of anything ever changing or improving, he was all about helping to focus attention on eternity and what will happen in eternity if we respond correctly. Remember last week I talked about Johnny Erickson Tada and the book titled Don't Waste Your Sorrows. All I remember of the author is his last name started with the letter B as in boy. Don't waste your sorrows. And in that book, as I told you last week, he says that God has a plan for us in eternity. The only time we have to prepare for that is right now. And so our rewards will be commensurate with what we have done. And another thing I was talking to somebody with earlier today was the support that we gave for Larry. So much of what is going on is based on the executive order that had Larry's name all over it, as far as, I'm not saying literally. Larry said he wrote it. I know what his writing skills are like, and so I know that it didn't come out as he wrote it, but it was the basis for the December 21st, 2017. It was tightened up September 2018. And so much of what is happening worldwide is based on that executive order. And as I have told you so many times, if Larry has any reward for being a part of helping to happen the good things that we keep hearing rumors are happening behind the scenes, then every one of you who donated, even the one that donated 46 cents one time because that's all she had in her account, we will all share in Larry's reward for what he has done to help. And that blows me away, to think of God's grace and how He wants to bless us all. And we had a chance to participate in tremendous blessing by what we did for Him. That's why I am grateful that I was asked by you guys to keep this channel going. Obviously, I'm doing my best to keep His name alive, because we are still seeing the repercussions of what He did. We are still reaping the benefits of what He did behind the scenes. And He told all of us, and very little of what He really was doing. He told me, I said He told us very little. He told me little. But the little I know it's just a little, but the little I know drops my jaw in awe of what God allowed Him to do. And I'll never forget in 2016 and 17 when we had conference calls and he was so ashamed of what his past had been, and he was having such a hard time letting go of the guilt. And how often we reminded him of the book of Esther. He didn't like being compared to a woman. I said, you've got to forget about gender in this. The bottom line is, Mordecai said, who knows, but for such a time as this, you were called to this position. And whatever he was participating in earlier in life that he felt guilty about allowed him to have the insider information to become the whistleblower he was. So, a little more in background. Habakkuk was angry too. He was incredulous that God would allow his people, the Israelites, to pervert justice and harm the innocent. Oh my goodness, how many pastors are we discovering are harming the innocent? We used to have somebody on here whose very pastor she caught in the act of touching her little relatives inappropriately. So here's Habakkuk very angry about what's happening among the people of God. So he brought his anger to God, and God's answer that the Babylonians, the evil Babylonians, would soon destroy the people of Israel made him even more incredulous. The Babylonians were known throughout the world as a ruthless and fearsome people. Why would God use the Babylonians to discipline God's people? So Habakkuk questioned God again, and God answered again. And that's what we're going to read in Habakkuk 3. God showed Habakkuk that in time, the Babylonians would reap what they had sown. In response, Habakkuk expressed his faith in God and his trust in God's ways. So I'm going to read the book of Habakkuk. It doesn't take long. It's not a very long book. Before I do, if I can get to it quickly, see how quick I can get to this. I'm also going to read a little bit from Psalm 37. Come on. So it says, don't fret because of evildoers. Don't be envious of the workers of iniquity. They will soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the herb. Trust in the Lord. Delight yourself in the Lord. Commit your way to the Lord. I'm skipping over. Rest in the Lord. Wait patiently. Fret not because of the one who's prospering in his way, because of the man who brings wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger. Forsake wrath. Don't fret yourself in any wise to do evil, because evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait on the Lord will inherit the earth. Yet a little while, and the wicked shall be no more. Yes, you will diligently consider his place, and it won't be. But the meek will inherit the earth. Again, it says that. The wicked plot against the just, and gnash upon him. The wicked person gnashes upon him with his teeth. The Lord will laugh at him, just like it says in Psalm 2. He will hold them in derision. For God sees that the wicked's day is coming. The wicked have drawn out the sword and bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy and slay such as be of upright conversation. Well, their sword right now is a needle. Their sword will enter in their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. A little that a righteous man has is better than the riches of many wicked. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholds the righteous. The wicked shall perish. I'm skipping. The wicked shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord shall be as the fat of lambs, and they shall consume, and into smoke they will consume away. The wicked borrow and don't pay again. Larry told us about how ADFA, the Arkansas Development Finance Administration, I think, had 2 sets of books. And what he found out was these were supposed to be bond loans to help churches and schools with construction and so on. Instead, it was all of Bill Clinton's cronies who were getting the money, and they never paid a penny back. So here's the wicked borrowing and not paying again. But the righteous shows mercy, and the righteous gives generously. Depart from evil and do good. The Lord loves judgment. He does not forsake his saints. But the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. And we already see Chelsea Clinton stepping up publicly. We see James Comey's daughter as the assistant DA in southern New York, where they're going after Trump. The wicked watch the righteous and seek to slay the righteous. But the Lord will not leave him in his hand, nor will not leave the righteous in the hand of the wicked, nor condemn the righteous when he's judged. Wait on the Lord and keep his way. I have seen the wicked in great power, spreading themselves out like a green bay tree. Yet he passes away. I sought him, but he couldn't be found. Transgressors, and I'm skipping again, transgressors shall be destroyed altogether. The end of the wicked will be cut off. The Lord will deliver them from the wicked and save them because they trust in him. So when I was reading through Habakkuk, it just reminded me so much of 37. I wanted to start there. So Habakkuk 1, the burden, which also in other translations is called the vision that Habakkuk the prophet saw. And I imagine many people who see visions feel like it's quite a burden to be put on their shoulders. Oh Lord, how long shall I cry and you will not hear me? I even cry out to you about the violence and you don't save. Why do you show me iniquity and cause me to behold grievance? For spoiling and violence are before me, and there are those that raise up strife and contention. I'm reading King James, but I'm modifying it. Therefore the law is slack, and judgment never goes forth. For the wicked compass about the righteous, and wrong judgment proceeds. Behold, among the heathen, and regard and wonder marvelously. I will work a work, this is God speaking. I will work a work in your days that you will not believe, even if I told you. For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation that will march through the breadth of the land to possess the dwelling places that are not theirs. They are terrible and dreadful. Their judgment and dignity shall proceed from them. Their horses are swifter than the leopards. Boy, they must have Arabian horses, huh? They're more fierce even than the evening wolves, and their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from afar, flying as the eagle that hastens to eat. They come all for violence. Their faces sup up as the east wind, and gather the captivity as the sand. And they'll scoff at the kings, and princes shall be a scorn to them. They shall deride every stronghold, for they shall heap dust and take it. So here we have the leaders and the soldiers from Babylon, the Chaldeans now, coming in, and they're the ones who are deriding the people of God. And yet God says in Psalm 2 that he's going to hold the wicked in derision. So that's why I wanted to read Psalm 37. Then his mind will change, and he will pass over and offend, imputing this power unto his God. Are you not from everlasting, O Lord, my God, my Holy One? We're not going to die, are we? O Lord, you have ordained them for judgment. They're the wicked ones. Almighty God, you have established them for correction. You're of purer eyes than to behold evil. You can't look on iniquity. So why are you looking on them that deal treacherously and holding your tongue when the wicked devour the man that is more righteous than he? So he's trying to justify that the people in Israel and Judah are more justified and more righteous than the evil Chaldeans. And yet God knows that, there's wickedness there. And remember, judgment starts with the house of God. You make fish of the sea as the creeping things that have no ruler over them. They all of them take up with the angle. They catch them in their net. An angle would be a fish. They gather them in their drag, and they rejoice and are glad. They sacrifice unto their net. So they're worshiping their net because their net's helping them catch fish to feed themselves. They burn incense to their drag because by them their portion is fat and their meat is plenteous. Shall they therefore empty their net and not spare continually to slay the nations? It's like, why are you coming after Israel with this wicked nation and not going after them? Look what they're doing. And Habakkuk continues in chapter 2, I will stand upon my watch and set myself upon the tower and watch to see what he will say to me and what I shall answer when I'm reproved. This reminds me of Job when he took God on at the end of the book of Job. And Job sets him straight pretty quick, right? The Lord sets Job straight pretty quickly. So now the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he that may run that reads it. That's why we have to be so quick to listen to the Lord, so we know when he tells us to run and where to go. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Remember, God is outside of time, so we don't understand that. So when it's God's time, it's going to happen. We just have to be patient. Behold, his soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him. But remember, the just shall live by faith. And that is also quoted in Hebrews, that the just will live by faith. Yes, also because he transgresses by wine, he's a proud man. He doesn't keep himself at home. He enlarges his desire just like hell is enlarged, and as death is enlarged and can't be satisfied, but gathers unto him all nations and heaps unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his? How long? And say to him that ladens himself with thick clay? Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and shall be for booty unto them? Behold, you spoil many nations. All the remnants of the people shall spoil you, because of men's blood. Remember, God doesn't like the shedding of blood, innocent blood. For there is violence in the land, and the city, and all that dwell therein. Woe to him that covets an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. You have consulted shame to your house by cutting off many people, and sinned against your soul. For the stone will cry out of the wall, and there are other places that say the blood of the innocent will cry out from the ground. And the beam out of the timber will answer it. Woe to him that builds a town with blood and establishes a city by iniquity. Behold, is it not of the Lord of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for vanity? The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of God as the waters cover the sea. Boy, I tell you, that is what I am hoping is right around the corner. Woe to him that gives his neighbor drink and puts your bottle to him and makes him drunk, so you can look at their nakedness. You are filled with shame for glory. You drink also, and then let your foreskin be uncovered. He says you're getting drunk and then you're taking your pants off. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto you, and shameful spewing shall be on your glory. For the violence of Lebanon will cover you, and the spoil of beasts, which made them afraid because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land and of the city and all that dwell therein. What profit is the graven image or the idol that the maker has made, the molten image, a teacher of lies, that the maker of his work trusts in it to make dumb idols? Woe to him that said to the wood, awake, to the dumb stone, arise, it shall teach. Behold, it's overlaid with gold and silver, and there's no breath at all in it. But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all keep silent before him. So now we have the prayer that we're going to look at the rest of this week. It's the prayer of the prophet. O Lord, I have heard your speech, and I was afraid. O Lord, revive your work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make known. In your wrath, Lord, in your wrath, remember mercy. God came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. I had something written here about Teman and Paran. I think I've got it in the notes, but I thought maybe I would just, if I could find it quickly, I could just share it right now. I'm looking real quick. God's power in nature is a theme here. He's remembering God's deeds in Israel's history. Teman was in Edom to the south and a little bit east in what is now Jordan. Mount Paran was in the south of Israel, just north of Mount Sinai. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise, and his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hands, and there was the hiding of his power. Before him went the pest. Are these horns long fingernails? I don't know. Horns represent strength. So he's got strong hands. And his power was hidden. Before him went the pestilence. Boy, we had that last year. And burning coals went forth at his feet. He stood and measured the earth. He beheld and drove asunder the nations, and the everlasting mountains were scattered. The perpetual hills bowed down. His ways are everlasting. I saw the tents of Cushan, which may be Cush, which is south of Egypt. I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction, and the curtains of the land of Midian were trembling. Midian, I think, was also in the Jordan area. Hang on a second. Midian is south of Edom on the east side of the Gulf of Aqaba, which is now Saudi Arabia. So Midian is where Saudi Arabia is. Was the Lord displeased against the rivers? Was your anger against the rivers? Was your wrath against the sea, that you rode on your horses and your chariots of salvation? The bow was made quite naked according to the oaths of the tribes, even your word. You did cleave the earth with rivers. The mountains saw you and trembled. The overflowing of the water passed by. And speaking of the overflowing water, you've got flooding going on in India. You've got terrible flooding going on in China. And now flooding is happening in Brazil. Let's remember our brothers and sisters in Christ. And remind me, before I finish, I want to say something that I learned about China today. The deep uttered his voice and lifted up his hands on high, using, human language to describe. I'm sure the deep lifting its hands would be these huge crashing waves. The sun and moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of your arrows they went, and at the shining of your glittering spear. You did march through the land in indignation and threshed the heathen in anger. You went forth for the salvation of your people, even for salvation with your anointed. You wounded the head out of the house of the wicked by discovering the foundation unto the neck. You did strike through with his staves the head of his villages. They came out as a whirlwind to scatter me. Their rejoicing was to devour the poor secretly. You walked through the sea with your horses, through the heap of great waters. When I heard, my belly trembled, my lip quivered at the voice. Rottenness entered my bones, and I trembled in myself, that I might rest in the day of trouble. When he comes up unto the people, he will invade them with his troops. Though the fig tree shall not blossom, I love this. Though the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vines. The labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls. In other words, even though there is famine, verse 18, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. The Lord is my strength. He will make my feet like hinds' feet, or like the deer feet, or the feet of goats, and make me walk on high places. So that is the end of Habakkuk. I know some of that language, especially in the King James, is a little obscure, but let me check Sidney Powell's site. Joseph, let me double check. Telegram, Sydney. I know I got it from Sidney Powell. It's rumble.com/V as in Victor, H as in Howard, WARSTLE L, lowercase l, hyphen motivation hyphen for hyphen patriots.html. Isn't that what I wrote? Yeah, that's what I wrote. So I don't know why it doesn't work, because that's what I clicked on here and it did work, and it is HTTPS. So I don't understand why. I would suggest going to rumble.com, and if they have a search bar, look for Motivation for Patriots. That's what I would do. I'm double checking. I guess that's all I guess I've read everything here. So tomorrow we'll go into the questions that will help us pull apart chapter 3, this prayer here. It reminds me, as I said again, of what Job did in questioning God about why God had allowed what had happened. God never answered him, but God revealed to Job God's power and might and creative ability, and helped Job see that even if he didn't have the answer, he could trust God. And that's where we need to stay. So I gave you a lot of sites to look at today, and I will repost everything tomorrow to make sure that there is, you have access to all that if you want to look at it again. All right. And the couple here that I posted in the chat and didn't put down below in the description box, I'll make sure all of that's in the description box tomorrow, because I'm going to do that right now. Thanks for being here. It was titled Contrast because we're contrasting the wicked and the righteous. So that was it. Thank you for being here, and I'll talk to you tomorrow afternoon. God bless you. Bye-bye.